History often celebrates the loudest nations, the biggest armies, the countries that filled headlines with power and threats. But World War II was not decided by noise alone. It was shaped by quiet decisions, by ordinary people, and by countries that chose responsibility over recognition. One of those countries was Canada. In the late 1930s, the world was uneasy. Adolf Hitler was rebuilding Germany's military, tearing up treaties, and testing how far he could go. Many nations hesitated. Some hoped the danger would pass. Then, in September 1939, Germany invaded Poland, and the illusion collapsed. War had arrived. Britain declared war. France followed. And then something remarkable happened. Canada did not rush in blindly. For the first time in its history, Canada paused and chose for itself. On September 10, 1939, Canada declared war on Nazi Germany as an independent nation. This was not automatic loyalty. This was a conscious decision to stand against tyranny. At that moment, Canada was not a military giant. The army was small. The navy was limited. Equipment was outdated. Canada was a country still recovering from the Great Depression, with no expectation of becoming a major force in a global war. Yet something extraordinary followed. People stepped forward. Young men left farms, factories, and classrooms. Fathers kissed their children goodbye. Mothers watched sons board trains with fear in their eyes and strength in their posture. These were not professional soldiers raised for war. They were ordinary Canadians who believed that allowing evil to spread was not an option. Hitler's strategy was ruthless and simple: starve Britain into surrender. German submarines began hunting ships across the Atlantic Ocean, targeting food, fuel, and medical supplies. If Britain fell, Europe would fall with it. Canada understood what was at stake. From ports like Halifax and Newfoundland, Canadian sailors escorted convoys through some of the most dangerous waters on Earth. They sailed through darkness, storms, and enemy attacks. Ships exploded without warning. Cold waters swallowed lives in seconds. The Battle of the Atlantic became the longest continuous battle of World War II, and Canada became its backbone. By the end of the war, Canada had built one of the largest navies in the world, not through ambition, but through necessity. Not loudly, but effectively. Canadian sailors kept Britain alive. While the oceans burned, Canada was shaping the war in another way, one that few people ever talk about. Canada became the training ground for Allied air forces through the British Commonwealth Air Training Plan. The skies over the prairies filled with aircraft. Young pilots from Canada, Britain, Australia, and New Zealand learned to fly, navigate, and fight. More than 130,000 aircrew were trained in Canada. Many of the pilots who later faced the Luftwaffe, bombed German factories, and defended Europe learned their skills over Canadian fields. Canada's contribution wasn't just manpower. It was preparation. It was foresight. It was giving the Allies the ability to fight back from the air. Not every moment was victory. In 1942, Canada faced tragedy at Dieppe. Mostly Canadian forces were sent to assault a heavily defended French coast. The mission failed. The losses were devastating. Thousands were killed, wounded, or captured in a single morning. Families back home were shattered. The nation mourned. But that sacrifice was not meaningless. Dieppe exposed fatal flaws in Allied planning. Those lessons reshaped the strategy for D-Day. Canadian blood paid for knowledge that would save countless lives later. History often skips this part, but it matters. On June 6, 1944, D-Day arrived, the largest invasion in human history. While American forces landed at Omaha and Utah, Canadian soldiers stormed Juno Beach. They faced mines, machine gun fire, and concrete defenses. Yet they advanced faster and farther than almost any other Allied force that day. Canada was not supporting the invasion. Canada was leading it. After D-Day, Canadian troops pushed through Europe, liberating towns and cities, in France, in Belgium, and most memorably in the Netherlands. The Dutch population was starving. Canadian soldiers brought food, protection, and dignity. They did not arrive as conquerors. They arrived as helpers. To this day, the Netherlands remembers Canada. Every year, flowers are placed on Canadian graves. Streets fill with gratitude. Children are taught why Canadian soldiers mattered. Freedom for them came wearing Canadian uniforms. Back home, Canada transformed completely. Factories that once produced household goods began producing tanks, planes, and ammunition. Women entered the workforce in massive numbers, building ships and aircraft, keeping the war effort alive. Canada became an industrial powerhouse almost overnight. It didn't just fight the war, it supplied it. The cost was immense. More than 45,000 Canadians never came home. Hundreds of thousands were wounded. Families were permanently changed. Old photographs remain. A child reaching for a father. A mother standing brave while breaking inside. These are not just images. They are echoes of real lives. Think about your own family. Your grandparents. Your great-grandparents. Someone you never met may have stood in those moments. Waiting. Leaving. Hoping. The war wasn't fought only on distant battlefields. It was fought in living rooms, kitchens, and quiet prayers across Canada. So why isn't this story told more often? Because Canada never bragged. There were no grand declarations of greatness. Canada did what needed to be done and then stepped back. Quiet courage rarely demands attention, but it deserves remembrance. World War II changed Canada forever. It emerged confident, independent, and respected. No longer defined by its past, but by what it chose to do when the world needed help. Canada did not fight for conquest. It did not fight for glory. Canada fought because standing by was not an option. And when history looks back, it may not always remember who shouted the loudest. But it will remember who showed up when it mattered most.